are elements. And when we add elements together, they become alchemy. Now, in ancient times, to the Taoist, it was for the purpose of attaining immortality. And in later times, it was for the purpose of turning base metal into gold. But in both processes, it was purification. Now, in this process of purification, the alchemists always came to a time when, after the material had reached a certain level of cleansing, that other things had to be called into play. Not just the addition of more special and more refined and subtle ingredients, but the time of this moment of adding those ingredients had to be in alignment with the cosmic forces and the planetary arrangements. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So you'll notice, for those of us who have been together many times before, that these stories being told now, these simple stories, unlike the Sufi stories and the like, that enabled us to think and ponder and discuss and perhaps come to an understanding. These simple stories are those subtle ingredients that we're adding to our pot, our cauldron. So there are several simple stories, several simple Taoist stories. The first is about a man called Apoh. Now, Apoh was a horse breeder. In fact, he was the horse breeder for the emperor of the day. And he'd chosen the best of horses for his emperor since he was a young man. Because he had the ability not just to look at the outer appearance of a horse and see that it had fine fetlocks and good muscles and the like, but he could see the essence of the horse. But Apoh was very old, and the emperor asked him, did he have someone who could take over the role as his horse breeder? Now Apoh confirmed that a true horse breeder does not just look at the appearance of the horse, but sees the essence of the horse. And he had no one in his family that had those abilities. But Apoh said to the emperor, I know a simple man. In fact, he just sells pots and pans in the marketplaces. But he's the man who can be your new horse breeder. So the emperor sent a message to this man and asked him to choose a horse for him. Well, this man went away and he didn't make contact with the emperor for 3 months. But after that time, he told the emperor that the horse had been found and that it was a yellow mare. But when the horse was delivered to the emperor, it was a black stallion. So the emperor went to Apoh and he said, what do you mean? You give this man to me as to be my next horse breeder? And what, he doesn't even know that it's a mare and yellow? And Apoh said, oh, It's better than I even thought. He's 1,000 times more capable than I've ever been. He doesn't even notice the appearance of the horse. He only knows and feels its essence. And so, when the emperor came to use this horse, he discovered that it was the greatest horse that he had ever been given. Horses. In symbolic terms, what does a horse, in archetypal terms, what does a horse mean for us? Horses.
Truth.
Strength.
Yes. In your dreams, what has a horse meant for you?
Strength and beauty.
And beauty and power and force and yes. In a word. In a word. Horse.
Power.
Power, strength, speed, beauty. What else? Yes. Archetypes. Yes. Yes. Spirit. Spirit. In your dreams, isn't this what the horse represents? So, let's change the tune a little. Remember the story of Mulla? Do you remember that time when he wanted to be a physician? And he went out to find the leading physician in the land so that he could become his student. And the physician said, "Yes, you can come along with me while I make house calls." So Mulla follows the physician to the first house, and when they get there, the door opens and there's this very obese lady, very ill. So the physician leads her into the bedroom and she lies down on the bed, and then the physician bends down and looks under the bed. And then he takes her pulse. And while the physician's taking her pulse, Mulla looks under the bed. And then the physician says to the woman, "You have to give up sugar. You have to give up all kinds of sugar." Because under the bed there were lolly papers and soft drink cans. So they went out and they came to the next house and knocked on the door, and a very agitated woman came to the door and said, "I'm so worried about my husband. He keeps falling over all the time. I've laid him down on the bed." So they go into the bedroom. The physician looks under the bed. Mulla looks under the bed. And then the physician says, "You have to give up alcohol." Because under the bed were bottles of schnapps, empty bottles of schnapps and vodka and the like. So after they left the house, the physician said to Mulla, "Well, next time it's your turn, you can judge what's meant with her." So they get to the house and they knock on the door, but it takes a long time for the door to be answered. And finally, a very flustered young woman comes to the door, putting herself close to her. So they lead in, because the physician said to the wife, "My husband has sent me along to visit with you. He's quite worried about you. You always have a headache." So they go into the bedroom, and she lays down on the bed. Mulla bends down and looks under the bed, and then he says to the young woman, "You have to give up milk. You have to give up all forms of dairy food." So when they get out of the house, the physician said, "Well, how did you come to that diagnosis and conclusion?" Mulla said, "Well, I just followed exactly what you did, and when I looked under the bed, there was the milkman." So there was a king. Actually, he wasn't yet the king, but his father, the king, had just died and he was about to become king. And you know, he'd learned all the ways of the court. He'd learned to be a super marksman. He was a great gladiator, a swordsman on the field. And he knew the ways of statesmanship, having been tutored from a very young age. But inside of himself, he was greatly unsure, unconfident, not certain of himself. And he was concerned. How could he become the king and have people respect him, obey him, when he had this fear, lack of confidence within? So he heard that there was a certain shaman who lived outside of town. So, putting himself in disguise, he went off to the shaman to seek his advice. What should he do? The shaman said, "It's very easy. It's very simple. You just have to put on a mask. And this mask will enable you to give the appearance of being invincible, of being brave, of being forthright." The young king said, how can I do that? What can I do? The shaman said, "It's very easy. I can make a mask for you." "Oh," said the king, "I haven't got much time. I've got to go back for my coronation. How long will it take?" "Oh," the shaman said, "No time at all. I can make it overnight for you. And while I'm making it, I can tell you what you have to do." So he set about making the mask for the king. And as he was putting the plaster together and so forth, he instructed the king what he must do. First of all, there were several rules that had to be followed. He must never smile or laugh. He could grimace, he could look stern, but he must never laugh. because if he laughed, the mask would break, and that would be the end of him. So the young king thought to himself, this was very easy because he didn't really have anything to laugh about or smile about anyway. So, with other instructions, which we all know because we've lived them ourselves, the mask was made and fitted onto his face. So he went back to his kingdom, and sure enough, because the mask was in place, he gave the appearance of being stern, even sometimes brutal. People respected and feared him, and so life went on for some long while. But after some years, one night the king went to bed, and he thought to himself, I've never known joy or happiness. I wonder what it would be like to smile. So he tried. And after some little while, all of a sudden, there was a creak, groan, and a snap. An amazing thing happened. All of a sudden, in the corridors of the palace, the sound began to permeate. People couldn't believe it. What was happening? What was that sound? It was the king laughing. Everyone came to his chamber to see the king rolling around the floor, laughing. And as they watched, during a great paroxysm of laughter, he died. Here, right now, with the elements that are present, that we bring, and the alignment of the planets, the cosmic forces in play. What happens? You're going to die laughing. That sound good enough?
Sounds great.
Does sound good enough? So with our mask workshop, it's serious business, just like this is serious business.